Parenting is one of the most demanding and rewarding roles we will ever take on. But in the middle of caring for everyone else, it's easy to lose sight of your own needs. This episode is a reminder that taking care of yourself isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. And when you do, your entire family benefits. Welcome back to the Natalie Tysdal podcast. I'm so glad you're joining me today for a conversation that is both heartfelt and incredibly practical, especially if you're in a season of caregiving, parenting, or simply trying to find balance in a busy life. My guest is Holly Swenson, a registered nurse, mom of 4 boys, and the author of the book Stop, Drop, Grow, and Glow. Holly brings a grounded, grace-filled perspective to the challenges of modern parenting. She understands the overwhelm, the pressure, and the guilt that so many of us feel, and she offers a new way forward. In this episode, Holly shares her 4-step framework for intentional living in parenting, along with simple, sustainable practices you can start using today. Together, we're going to talk about self-awareness, burnout, the myth of balance, and how to move from simply surviving to actually thriving. If you've ever felt like there's never enough time or that self-care always comes last, Holly's wisdom will help you reframe the way you think about wellness and why your well-being matters for the people you love most. I have a favor to ask of you. If you could go to my website, natalietysdal.com, you'll see where you can sign up for my newsletter and also subscribe to the podcast. Again, I'm glad you're here and I'm excited to get started today with Holly Swenson. Holly, so nice to meet you and thank you for joining me today.
Hi, Natalie. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, your book and what you specialize in, I think, affects every single woman who's listening to this podcast. And that is, how do we take care of ourselves when we're trying to take care of everyone else?
Yes, that is the balance. That is the dance of life, right? And I think for parents, for, whether you're a mother or a father, there really is finding that happy, sweet spot. And some days it's just not easy, but, I'm the mother of 4, and so I've really had to learn to walk this path with more grace. And it took me years to kind of learn some of these tools and tricks that I'm really passionate about sharing with other people. And I think it really starts with cultivating more self-awareness and even noticing that you need more self-care and that you need to take care of those parts of you that maybe have been on the back burner so that you can show up for your family, for your children, for anyone that you come in contact with in a way that feels more in alignment with who you truly are.
I feel like self-care is such a buzzword today. And for me, it was, I'm going to go get a massage and I'm just going to take a bath. But there's so much more to it if we're being really honest that is a lot deeper. And work, I'll say, we think of self-care as not being work, but you have to do the work on yourself.
You do. Absolutely. I think there is that foundational piece. And so for me, this book I wrote, Stop, Drop, Grow, and Glow, I've created this framework. And so when you talk about doing the work, the first part of my book is stop. And that is asking you to really stop and self-assess and see how you're doing. And if you're a parent, like how are you doing as a parent, but also how are you doing as an individual?
Yeah.
And really looking closer at those areas in your life that might be in need of a tune-up. And it might be that foundational. Maybe you're carrying trauma from your childhood. Maybe you're, going through divorce, or you're going through different things that people experience on the life continuum. But learning to go in and actually make reparations on yourself, learning to put that time in to really fix those cracks in your foundation. And that doesn't mean you're forgetting them, but that you're making peace with them so it's not keeping you from living in the present.
Okay, so let's talk about that a little more. I think for a lot of people, and for me, we don't know what those cracks are. We're just rolling along with life. We're just changing diapers and sending kids to college and making dinner every night. We don't see the cracks until we fall apart.
That's right. And I think that's because that's how so many of us have been brought up, like suck it up and keep going. It's that attitude of I think we're so good at wearing masks that we don't know how to be vulnerable, even with our own self. And so I think that's where it does take work on your part to actually get curious about how you're doing. And most people don't give themselves that time, that pause, because you're changing diapers, because you're running from one activity to the next, because you're, trying to keep up with this crazy pace of
We're just
life.
trying to survive.
In survival mode. And that's, for me, what I'm so passionate about, is taking people from surviving to thriving. And it does come down to you having to, become more curious, become more self-aware, become more intentional with how you're showing up, not only for yourself, but for others. And so there is a layer of deep work that's needed. And so my work isn't just like surface level. It really is going under the hood and looking at how you're doing, how you're operating, and it might also call, for you to reach out to a healthcare professional or a life coach or somebody outside of yourself to help you, grow in ways that are going to be helpful and healthy for you in your life. If there's stuff that's deeper and heavy that you can't clear on your own.
And for some people, they don't see it. They don't even know they have it,
Yes.
But we all have something. We all have something that we can work on, or some self-reflection, the self-care that's needed.
That's right. Yeah. And so that might be, it might be an invitation for you to do journaling or actually just, if you don't know what some of those things are, or you haven't given yourself time, it might just be giving yourself space. Give yourself a half an hour on a Sunday afternoon to really sit with yourself without distraction, without being in the presence of others, because I believe in silence is when you start to actually notice more things about yourself. You can get deeper. You can go to that next layer that you can't when you're distracted by the presence of others.
And that, I love it that you said that, because silence is hard for people. It's kind of like, I liken it to when I tell my kids, I say, I'm bored. And I say, oh, that's so good you're bored. That's good. That makes you think. And silence is the same way. Like being silent on a walk, or taking time to meditate or journal, that we fill our time with social media, with movies, with conversations, even driving sometimes. I think I'm going to call so-and-so. I'm like, no, actually, I'm going to use these 10 minutes to just be silent.
That's right.
And that's hard.
That's right. And I think too, it's like inviting that consciousness into your daily life, like just starting to notice, because I think so many of us are on autopilot.
Yeah.
And we're so used to being stimulated that not being stimulated is very uncomfortable.
Especially in today's age.
Yes.
That maybe wasn't true 20 years ago, or even 10 years ago.
Yes. It's a dying art, but it's one that's so healthy if you can make time.
Yeah. I'm no tech genius, but I knew if I wanted my business to crush it, I needed a website now. Thankfully, Bluehost made it easy. I customized, optimized, and monetized everything exactly how I wanted with AI. In minutes, my site was up. I couldn't believe it. The search engine tools even helped me get more site visitors. Whatever your passion project is, you can set it up with Bluehost. With their 30-day money-back guarantee, what do you got to lose? Head to Bluehost.com. That's BLUEHOST.com to start now.
So, stop was the first tip you gave us. Let's move on. What else would you do, and would you suggest to busy women today?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so you want me to unpack stop more, or you want me to go to or do you want me to talk about my framework, just so I'm clear on
whatever you think would help? Whatever you think, this busy profile of a woman who's doing it all and needs some more self-care.
Yeah. Well, I think so. If we're talking self-care, I think you don't have to get big and fancy. To me, self-care can be as small as 5 minutes a day. There's literally some parents who feel like I have no time for myself. So start small. I would say literally 5 minutes a day, sit and breathe. Just, get comfortable, finding that stillness. Maybe you put a hand on your heart, a hand on your belly, and just breathe. Just like take a minute to pause. And if, as your kids get older, as you start having more time in your life, that time that you're going to have for yourself is going to grow. I mean, you're just going to have, things shift as, the chapters of your life change. And so, I think the other piece here is it doesn't have to be the traditional massage. So a lot of people think, okay, well, I'll go get a massage or I'll go to the gym. One thing I talk about is really taking care of your mind, your body, your spirit, and your environment. And so taking this holistic approach to your health, your wellness, your well-being. And so I think it can also be like, for me, I'm big on meditation. So I start my mornings. I like to wake up. I make my green tea. I go and sit in silence before my family gets up, because that helps me not only practice gratitude, feel more connected in my own body and to my, my life journey, but it gives me an opportunity just to kind of check in and also practice gratitude. And then when I do receive my kids, I'm coming at a different, more well-rounded vantage point to start the day. But it can be aromatherapy. Self-care can be going and getting yourself a beautiful bouquet of flowers or meeting a friend for lunch. I think we don't think about self-care in a broad enough way, if that makes sense. I think self-care is anything that brings you joy, and that's going to be different for everybody. It's learning to take care of yourself and nourish yourself in the way that feels the best to you. And maybe that is going to the gym, but it's just like I said, it's gonna hit everybody a little bit differently, but it's learning to partner with what makes you feel the best in your life and your skin.
Yeah. I like what you said. And I don't know if you use this in your framework, in your book, is to think about what can I do that's bringing me joy today, and to actually make sure you're doing that. It feels selfish for a lot of people, especially when everyone around us has needs.
Yes.
Husband has need, our kids have needs, our parents have needs, our work had needs. And then you think, well, why do I need to take that time out? I don't have time to find joy today.
Well, the reality is if you don't make time to connect with your joy, you're going to burn out. You're going to become depressed. You're going to become anxious. You're going to become all the things that so many people are living in this day and age. We are very unhealthy, very unwell group of humans. And there was a study, or not a study, but the former U.S. Surgeon General issued something last August that said 41% of parents were so stressed most days they can't function.
And how are we showing up for our families if that's the case?
Right.
Yeah.
And so, you hear statistics like that, and it's like, that we have a problem. I mean, we're on fire. And so we have to take care of ourselves. And that does take, it takes effort. It takes penciling yourself in on your calendar. And it's not selfish. It's really an act of self-love that's going to actually benefit everybody in your life.
Yeah.
And so I think we really have to reframe it. We really need to reframe, and it needs to be a daily practice, not every now and then. It's daily to optimally thrive in life.
Yeah. I didn't ask you, I mentioned it in the intro, but your healthcare background, I want to hear more about that and how that led you to what you're doing now, because it is a form of our overall physical health and taking care of ourselves.
Yeah. So for me, my formal training is as an RN. So I used to work neuro, and then so I worked in the hospital, and then when we became pregnant with twins, I worked nights, as we were talking about briefly. I worked nights. And so we decided to shift gears, and I really turned inward and focused on raising my family. So I shifted gears out of the hospital, but I have been just like a natural caregiver from a young age. And so I went from being a nurse, taking care of patients, to shifting that focus on my family. And for years and years, I was just that person for my kids, and we joke that like raising 4 boys, it's like a rodeo, so it's our twins just turned 15. We got one that's 2 twins that are 15, 14, and we have one that's 11, so they're getting a little older now, but for me, I wanted to take what I have learned from being a parent, and I'm continuing to learn every day, but take those tools and tricks and self-discoveries that I've made and help other parents, so that they can activate their self-awareness, their intentionality, and their joy much earlier in their journey, or even before they have kids. I mean, we're not taught how to become parents. So many of us step into parenthood and we have no training. You train for any other career you go. You got to go 4 years of school at least. And for parenting, which is the biggest job in the world, we're so ill prepared. We don't know so many of us don't know what we're doing.
We're building the plane as it's in flight.
Yes, 100%.
And as many books as we read, as many pieces of advice as we get from people, until you experience it, that's the training.
Absolutely. It's hands-on.
Yeah.
For better or worse. And so that's where, I think one of the things I talk about too is the power of apology, because we are, human. And so, as you make mistakes or as you misstep, as a parent, learning how to apologize for your, not showing up the way you mean to role model and to practice that power of apology, I think is really important too.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about a different stage of life though. I think raising toddlers, raising teenagers, oh my goodness, that pressures us in so many different ways and pushes all of the buttons. Yeah. But for many people listening, they're dealing with that and they have aging parents. and they have work that is like on the brink and they want to leave so badly, or they might even want to retire. Those are all different forms of this pressure where it just doesn't seem to be time for self-care.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I think we also need to reframe our relationship with time, because yes, time is definitely a reality. But I do think that, when there's something that you want to prioritize, you still find a way to fit it in. Does that make sense? So like if you want to go get your coffee in the morning, or if you want to go do these certain things that are important to you, somehow you find a way to fit that in. Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, we don't prioritize ourselves in that picture. So the busier you are, the more you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So I think you have to reframe what time means to you. And it might be getting up before your family is awake in the morning. And that takes discipline. I think establishing habits, I say like try something for 2 weeks and then it starts to stick more. Like having, giving yourself a rewire. But I think the busier you are, the more stressed you feel, the more you need this work.
Yeah.
That's the way I view it.
I was listening to a podcast recently, and the advice that was given, I've never thought of this framework, was really stop telling yourself you have to do it and just do an experiment for a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. Like call it an experiment. It's less pressure. Yeah. And for 2 weeks, I'm just going to do an experiment and see what happens if I get up an hour before, even though I'm tired and I want that extra hour of sleep. What's going to happen? How am I going to feel? What's my mindset going to be? And I'm going to do that with a lot of things. I'm just going to try the experiment, because there's something about the pressure of I have to do it.
Yes.
That we want to flip into, but I don't really have to. I don't, because I have the power to say I'm not going to.
Right. I think I like that also, like the experiment, because it makes it like it puts an element of fun into, it's like a challenge, but not another I have to.
Yeah. Just think of yourself as a scientist. Try this out. That was great advice. Let's both try it, and then we'll check back, see how that works.
That's right. Absolutely. I love it.
What else do you talk about in the book? Give us more of that framework.
Okay, sure. So as I mentioned, so it starts with stop, and I kind of touched on that, but stop, I'll just kind of revisit it quickly, but stop is about doing some self-assessment. So you're, on where you are to date, both as a parent and as an individual, and then just doing that internal gazing on what's going well as anything that might not be going well. Because I think we're so busy, we're so bad at giving ourselves that time. But this is really an opportunity to cultivate more self-awareness, more curiosity, and consciousness on your journey. So that's real brief. But drop is learning to drop any drama, trauma, any personal past lived experiences that are keeping you from living in the now. So this one's a little more heavy, and this is kind of where, you might want to partner with somebody if this is what you don't feel like you can do on your own. But it can be very freeing, and it can, I think just help you shed skins you no longer wish to wear. Yeah. If you're open to kind of going back and doing some of that foundational work. And
if you're not open to it, you might revisit that. I have had a conversation with a professional recently, and, for a lot of people it is, why would I want to revisit that? I let go of that. And then you have to stop, like you mentioned, and say, have you really? You say you've let go of it, but until you dig deep enough, it's still there, and it's probably keeping you from moving on like you want to.
That's right. Absolutely. So that's, number 2, that's drop. And then the third one is grow. And that's starting to lean on habits that are going to help you expand as a parent. So this section goes into diet, exercise, mindfulness, sleep, that we talked about. Sleep is so important. I also talk about reducing substance or eliminating substance, if that's something of, value to you in your life. Because I always think like parenting is the most intense job you're ever going to have. And what I found is not drinking, not, relying on substance. I wake up feeling so fresh and so clean and clear. And so that's something that I talk about. And then also thanking your children for all that they teach you. I think a lot of, as much as you're teaching your children, they teach you just as much, if not more.
Oh, yeah.
So I think
I haven't thought of it that way, in actually telling our children that, so they feel the value in relationships and how we learn from each other.
That's right. It's reciprocal.
Yeah.
I don't think we give them credit for the wise little beings they are. And they really show you where your work still is cut out. You know, you think you're doing great, and then you're like, okay, I'm not showing up the way I want to. So how can you, it's like this continual improvement process. They show you, it's like a magnifying glass of where you still need to grow as a human being. And then GLOW is learning to take what you've learned from my framework and learning to live it in the world with your family. And self-care is a big component of this, this process. But, you know, learning to take care of yourself, honoring, you know, keep dreaming as a parent. Something I talk about is keeping that dream alive so that you're not just pouring everything you have into somebody else or your family, but also saving some of that magic for yourself and doing things on the side maybe that fill you up so that you feel just alive, more alive and more awake in your own life and grateful. So again, that's a real brushstroke. But my intention is really for parents to take care of their mind, body, spirit, and environment and take a holistic approach to stepping into their thrive in life.
Yeah, I love it. Holly, where can people find the book and learn more from you if this is something they want to go deeper into? And again, I love your broad stroke that you gave us, but it may sound simple. Getting into it and really doing it is a harder thing. So where can people find you?
Yes. So you can find my book on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, anywhere you buy your books. It's also on Audible and anywhere you buy your audiobooks. And then I'm on Instagram at Holly Swenson _Live Your Glow if you want to connect with me online. And then my website is liveyourglow.live.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I can only imagine how busy you are, and I appreciate that you take the time to take care of yourself because I have 2 that are out of the house, but I have a 15-year-old who's still here, and I'm busy. So for you to have 4 teenagers in the house, you said.
Yeah, almost. Our last one is almost a teenager, not quite there.
Well, good luck. And all boys. God bless you for that. That's a lot. I'm sure they keep you busy. Thanks, Holly. Good to talk to you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining the Natalie Tysdal podcast. You can follow along on Instagram and at natalietysdal.com. Subscribe to the show to catch every new episode and leave a review so I can continue to bring you fresh content. See you next week.